at Oban High we've got lots of feeder primaries, in fact about 20, so we have a very extensive transition process. For most pupils that involves them coming up for 3 days in June to experience the school and have induction days before they start in August. And part of my role in all of this is to make sure that the right information is passed on from primary to secondary, and that we're aware of the different support needs that young people can have, and they can have a very wide range of needs. So when the new school term started in August, some pupils hadn't arrived at Oban High School, and these were pupils who were from a traveller background. So part of my job was then to think about how do we get these young people to access their education. So a meeting was then arranged with the parents and the young people, and there was also a kind of local support worker who supports traveller families, and she helped to facilitate that meeting, and I think that was really important. I think she was a key link, and so everyone came into the school, and really we didn't even call it a meeting, we just called it an opportunity to see the school and have a chat, because we had just moved into a new school building which the parents and the pupils had never seen, because they hadn't come for the induction days either, and so we began to discuss what kind of education we could provide for these young people, and what was agreed was that the parents were happy for them to come in and have tuition, but that would take place not in the main school building but in our school hostel, which is just a short distance away. I think really the key parental concerns were that the young people might be exposed to influences or behaviour that they were not comfortable with. And I remember the parents saying that they had their own particular religious views and things that they wanted for their family, and they were just concerned that there would be a bit of a clash, and they weren't comfortable. They weren't comfortable about them coming into high school on a full-time basis. So we agreed that the tuition would start and would go ahead, and that one of our support teachers, Claire Smith, would deliver that tuition. And Claire was part of the meeting as well to get to know the families. And so the pupils began to come in twice a week and meet with Claire for regular tuition. In the Oban area, there's always been a strong traveller community, and at times some of the young people have come into mainstream and attended school on a full-time basis, and others haven't. So really we had to test the waters to see what was going to work and what the families would be comfortable with. And I think we really felt it was important to build up the relationship with the families too. So Claire obviously provided the tuition twice a week, and part of that involved meeting the parents as they were dropping them off and picking them up. And then as things were going so well and the pupils seemed to be really comfortable with Claire, we then had a discussion with the parents about bringing them into the main school building. And the pupils were keen to see the new school and to see more of it. And really we talked about the fact that we could offer them a wider range of opportunities. We'd be able to access more facilities like the Life Skills Kitchen in the sport department, and also other facilities in the school as well. So the parents were open to that. So that was really our next step. So they then began to come in for their tuition twice a week within the school. And we did that in a small classroom in the support department, which is really in the heart of the school, right across from the canteen. So the pupils would experience a wee bit more of the life of the school and what it's like to be in a busy environment and the number of pupils. And again, that seemed to go really well, and the pupils were comfortable with that. So we then began to look at ways of building up a bit more of a timetable for them, and we looked for opportunities to take them into mainstream classes, with Claire Smith supporting them in that as well. I think on the whole that went really smoothly, and we identified classes that the pupils could access, and that was really art, English and PE, and initially Claire went with them to help them to settle. She did the groundwork of contacting the teachers and giving them a little bit of background about the pupils and what they liked and what their strengths were. And then when they were comfortable going to that class, Claire began to pull back so that they became more independent at making their way around the school and getting from A to B. So we really hope that the next step would be for them to come into mainstream on a full-time basis. And really the pupils seem to be really enjoying the different experiences that they were having in Oban High School. But we got to that point and we really had a bit of a stumbling block. And again, I think at every stage of our journey, it's been important to communicate with parents, to have them in, to chat with them face to face. And I think that face to face conversation has been so important. You can do things over a phone, but when you're face to face with people, you can read how they feel about a situation and about what you're suggesting. And I think that builds up relationships too. So as we met with them, what became clear was that they were very happy with everything that had happened so far, but they didn't want the pupils to be in school on a full-time basis. And their if you like, their concerns and worries were still there. They were happy for them to continue with tuition, but that was as far as they wanted to go for the moment. So we felt it was really important to respect their wishes, and so we just set times for continued tuition. We were also mindful of the fact that there was other pupils in the picture now. One of the pupils had a sibling who was in P7 as well, and there was a couple of other young people that who'd come from the same background, the same primary school, and we wanted to try and get them into. So as we talked to them about this, we suggested the sibling joining the group as well, and then a visit was arranged for the other young person to come in and see the school, meet Claire, meet myself, and we also arranged for them to come in at a time when the tuition was taking place so that they could have a very clear picture of what that would mean for their child. And so that was, it was kind of maybe 2 steps forward and 1 step back, because in a positive, we then got another 2 pupils to come in and have tuition with us on a regular basis. And they seem to have settled really well, and their attendance is consistently good. And we feel like we've got a really good relationship with the parents. And I think as I've reflected on all of this and how far we've come, I think there's 2 key things. The relationship, establishing a relationship with the parents is so important, and you need to invest the time to do that. And I think secondly, you have to understand the background and culture that people are coming from. And although you might have your perspective on a situation and what you think might be the best outcome for that young person, but you also have to respect their family's wishes as well. And I think that's what I've learned in this whole process. Okay. I think something else that's really important to remember when you're in a situation like this and you're trying to achieve the best outcome for a young person is that you don't always know everything, and you have to look outside your school for advice and support. And I was very fortunate that we have an area PT that has responsibility for traveller children, and I was able to contact her and explain what we were doing and ask her for help and advice. And she then established a link between ourselves and Sean Curran from STEP. And Sean came and visited the school, and we just shared our journey with him and what we had done so far. And actually that was incredibly reassuring, because it sort of reassured us that we were on the right track and that we had handled things in the right way in terms of dealing with the families and our relationship with them. But Sean also gave us some really good advice about things that we could do looking to the future in terms of strengthening the work that was already going on.